Hey, welcome back to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, comment down below. Let me know where y'all from and who you a fan of. Let's get right into this. Let's get it started, man. So Quavo's brother, Migo Band, he been quiet lately. You know, at first everybody was talking about him back in November, saying he's the one that was next to him that had his whole blick up and everything like that. So now it's like you haven't heard a lot from him. Did they go and talk to him? Because they already got little Cam, they already got DJ Pat and everybody like that. And so it's like at the same time, that was the same equivalence that they had to get Migo Bands. And so he probably could have talked to them and gave his side of the story at that moment, but he's been real quiet ever since. And the way you look at it, it's like the whole argument from the dice game, they know exactly who was the one that swung first. Because when you look at the leaked text messages and the video, it says that Quavo could have even swung. And so the fact that they got into the argument and both people were swinging, it's like they all at fault for letting that happen, because that was the moments that led to somebody firing off and Takeoff getting hit and everything like that. You got to understand, if they didn't have the dice game argument, then you would have never had the situation where Takeoff gets hit. And that's just point blank period. And everybody knows that. And, you know, looking back at the whole situation right now, that's what it all was after. It was all about the dice game and just people with their egos and the whole attitudes coming into the dice game. And nobody wants to be a winner. Everybody in the hood want to have the next upper hand and one up everybody else. And so when it's like the dice game, it's the ultimate hood competition. And so what's going on is that even if somebody winning, losing, or like, you know, even if Quavo is still the more richer man or whatever, or has more money or more opportunity, they will still be petty enough to actually be like, nah, even though I won this dice game or whatever, they still doing this. They still want to have the upper end and level up, and basically one up Quavo by actually going out and, you know, telling him like, oh, you still got to pay us for this and that. And basically whatever finesse that they ran at the dice game, they did it because they want to have the upper end, the upper hand and the edge over the Migos. They know that the Migos got more money than them. They know that Quavo, Takeoff, and Offset, if they put all their money together from everything that they done, they made way more money than, you know, whoever is basically left around the mob ties, you know, in recent time. I mean, yeah, if you look at the whole history and you include Rap a Lot and everything, it could be close. But the fact that QC sold for $300 million, a lot of that has to do with Migos building it up in the early days, because you never really heard or seen QC until the Migos came up out of it. And they brought basically, through the rise of the Migos, through the rise of Takeoff, leading everything with the flow, Quavo and Offset, and then following along, it brought QC up to the point where they had the opportunity and the chance to even sell it for 300 million, but the Migos don't get any part of that. And it's like their whole catalog is gone to the whole brand new other company that nobody knows anything about. And it's like the people who got that already has got their hands in some other things too. Like they pulled the strings on many levels. And so we don't know that if they wanted this to happen from the jump. But what you got to understand is that people that was around at that dice game knew how that argument started, and it is basically revolves around that. Everything that happened in the dice game really brought out the inner feelings of what all everybody was thinking about each other. You know, it was already the fact that they didn't like Quavo as much. They didn't like the Migos that much. They were getting a lot of finesse out of them. They were getting a lot of money by having them around and by being able to, get them to do certain shows with them, certain little pop-ups and partnerships and whatnot. And it was politicking for a while, which gave, Mob Ties, J. Prince Jr. and all of them, they gave them a lot of leeway in getting into the industry and being able to, make connections with people, because they had the connection with the Migos. And so they could always fall back on like, oh yeah, we the ones who brought the Migos in earlier and got them to go with Drake, and Drake hopped on the Versace's. That was us. So they had a lot of like, a good game to speak when it came to that. But in reality, it's like, dang, so we all knew all along that this was going to be a downfall coming. And so people already knew this from the jump. Once that whole situation with Offset and Quavo with Saweetie happened, it's like everybody knew that it was okay. It was gonna be just a moment of time until these two get into another situation where they fighting again, and then the Migos break up for good. So people knew it was going to be coming to an end for a minute. But then when that dice game was going on, man, that's when it really was like they was trying to get, more and more everybody. No, at that point, Quavo didn't want to be pushed around no more. So he started to try to toughen up at the end and talk back to them. But he don't realize that it's only three, four, five of the guys from Atlanta that he came with. Probably, I think it was three of them max. It was Quavo and three people, but then you got DJ Pat, Jay Prince, and all these guys that came with 40 to 50 other people. So it's a mismatch already, and that's where you can't. You gotta know when to when to fold it and when to go in. You gotta know when to step away and when to go in. And in this situation, Quavo should have stepped away because of the fact that they already outnumbered. Plus, you on these guys' territory, and it's Texas, so you could just safe to assume that everybody's carrying, and it's never gonna end good, especially when he's the one that shot out of his mouth that he was gonna do something to somebody, and then that's when everything kind of hit the fan, and you heard people start clapping after that, and so, but it's just as much as wrong on the other side. Whoever the people were that were arguing with Quavo, they should have stepped away. They should have known that, hey, these guys, they not from here. There's no point. But the thing is that they took it as a disrespectful take because they were taking it as a hit to their family. And you heard that guy in the background just steady yelling, oh, this is a family thing. We a family thing. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And so he was kind of already sending them warnings and sending them signs that they should, walk away because, whenever you get into an argument with one of them, it's basically everybody's going to join in, and you don't know if you're going to get jumped or if you're going to be surrounded or whatnot. And so the safe thing to do is just not try a group of 50 people when there's only 4 or 5 of you guys total. And that's really like, okay, that's number one. And the second thing is that, that whole people who threw the party to Jay Prince Jr. and Jazz and them, once that party was over and it was nearing towards the end, they got to tell people to move around. They got to tell Quavo and Offset, they got to tell Quavo and Takeoff to either go to another club, back to the hotel, go to a movie theater, go somewhere else, because now the club, the whole party, birthday party is over with. Now people are on the sidewalk. This is now every man for himself. And if Quavo is starting to argue with the members of the security team, then the security team is not going to want to protect the guy that's arguing with them. And he's talking back to them. He's talking about, they want to get a bigger tip. They want to get more money out of charging him. And, the dice game, they wanted him to run the dice game back or again. And so that they can win their money back. And that's another thing is that dice games really don't end until whoever it is that's trying to intimidate the most feels like they could have a chance to get their money back. And so really it's just a trap where whoever it is that has the most control over that situation, whether it's their block, their neighborhood, or they got more of their homies there and everything that could maybe enforce it, it's really just a trap. The dice game is nothing but just like basically you agreeing to you might end up getting extorted in some way. And that's basically what happened. And so now you see nothing good came out of that situation. So both of them should have walked away, whether the party was over, or whether it was because they knew better not to argue, or that it was no point in keeping this going on. That's why Takeoff didn't really want to have nothing to do with it. But it's just unfortunate that it was just happening around him, and the people that just was surrounding him, that it was just so many of them thinking the wrong way, where that became the common way to think. When you in a big group of people like that, people become more dumb and do more dumb things because it's herd mentality. It's like, the IQ of each individual is like only going to help them. But when you got the whole group walking, once a bunch of people start walking to the left, you're going to start walking to the left. Once a bunch of people start walking to the right, you're going to do it, unless you aware of what's going on around you to the point where you realize that, oh, all these people is just a bunch of followers and sheep, and they're just being led to wherever the crowd is going to, whatever is more popular. So y'all got to understand that and realize that and see that that was what was going on with the whole situation of everybody going outside of the birthday party, spilling it out into the sidewalk, and just watching people argue and just, like talking in the back, ad-libbing to the whole argument. So with all that being said, you got to subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment down below, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Peace.